What's up, YouTube? It's Joe Catrapalia sitting on the couch, and today I am losing some money investing in fractional real estate online. I mentioned on yesterday's video that the way that there was a problem with the way that Lofty is reporting our basis, and at least mine in some of the tax forms I received. I think it's going to end up resulting in me grossly overpaying in the long run if it continues. And so I wanted to just share one example that is this is the most clean cut or clear cut example that I have, and it's because it's a property that I bought 10 tokens in, and then the property sold in real life, and so I got cash back. So it's very clear transactions. I didn't receive anything in between, no rent payments or anything. And so it is the clearest, most simple transaction I could find that would just really illustrate this point. So on this deal, 4326 East 175th Street. Um, the forms, and this isn't the tax form itself. This is like the backup that does flow through to the tax forms, though. It shows that I have a gain on this particular token on this particular property of $32.85. Um, I actually couldn't figure out exactly how they get to this number because and I'll show you. I'm going to show you the on-chain info and the Lofty data on it as well. So let's see. When I look in my order history, it shows $315.40. That's what Lofty's got here. The sale is a little bit different. I'll have to show you because this was a sale in real life. So, what they did is paid out $34.82 per token. That's where I got this $348.20. When you put those, when you subtract one from the other, it ends up being a profit of $32.80. And at my current tax rate, that would mean that I should pay taxes of $11.48 just from this transaction. But my actual, I spent $347.25. And this is the email I received from Lofty when I bought it. Buy market order receipt. Total paid $347.25. And so when you take that actual and you subtract what I received in real life, and I did a video about this quite a while back, and you can see why this ended up being such a small profit. It is an embarrassingly small profit, and it was because the sale estimate that they had given for the per token estimate when the transaction started was about $5 off from what it ended up being a month later. But anyway, that was one of my early disappointments with the platform. But this actually is much more concerning to me, the tax issue, than whether or not I made a profit on a particular deal. But so you can see, actually spent $347.25. Actually, the received amount is right, and I think that this is just right because it is. It's pretty simple, right? Direct payout. I'm actually not sure yet if when they're doing the sales back to us, I don't have a transaction that I've really pinned down where it wasn't a real world sale where I was sure that the sale number was giving me the right info. So I'm gonna have to dig into that further. But you can see I only made 95 cents on this transaction. So, in total. And so my taxes on that should be $33. But instead, it's being reported as if I made $32.80, which means I'm actually going to have to pay more if I use their figures, the current figures I was provided in my tax form to prepare my taxes. I'd actually end up paying $10 more in taxes than I made on this set of transactions. This is why I think that it's very problematic and it needs to be addressed because this isn't just a one-off thing. This is just I'm picking the simplest possible transaction to make this point clear. And I'm going to show you some of the on-chain data. And I am not a crypto guy, but I am working my way through this and trying to figure out, really what's going on here. And so these are, I'm just looking at my wallet. In that email, it did give me a transaction, and it's this transaction. But you can actually see So I received money here, and so if you look at the timestamps, like from here all the way down, you know, all the way down for until about here, I think these are all related to this transaction. It was a credit card purchase, and so what I believe is happening, and I'm just not even 100% sure of this, is that um, the credit card gets processed, and so they're sending this money into my account from here. Oh, I shouldn't have clicked into that because when I go back here, it's going to be no. Okay, I just have to scroll back down to it. It's I thought I was going to lose the page, but so um, I think this amount is already net of the fees because $340 is less than um, less than the amount that the 347 that I had to pay and that was in my receipt. So let's look at that again, just so I'm not. Yeah, so the total I actually paid was $347.25. So I don't even understand how this is calculated because it doesn't equal the credit card processing fee, right? Like there's a little bit more here than if I pulled out the full credit card processing fee. So I'm not really sure what's going on there. But so this amount gets put into the account. I get the tokens. This is the actual transaction that shows up in the email. So let me show you that. I know this is like super boring, but I think it's something that you really need to look at every single deal that you've bought on Lofty and see, you know, in there and they does our basis match up correctly, right? Because you can see just on this one transaction, I could be paying significantly more in taxes than I even made on the transaction, like 10 times as much as what I made on the transaction. And so that's because it's a very thin trade. But the fees are a significant portion of the purchase price on everything, and it's not just the fees; it's the operating reserve contribution that doesn't get paid back, so it should go into basis as far as I'm concerned. Like, it comes out of my account, and then what comes back, like that's what I didn't make any more money than what we're seeing here. I think it's possible they dropped off $1 because I'll show you. So this much went into my account, um, and then what came out? This is the 315, and this is what's pretty strange, right? It's 315.43. 0.439, which is different from the amount that they actually said, right? They said 315.40, so it's a few cents different that went back out. So this is coming from my wallet going back out. And then I believe one of these is fees and one is the OR reserve, I guess. I don't know. I don't know what these wallets are. So if somebody who's actually, better at this game than I am, maybe look at these and tell me, where these are going out. And I guess token transfers, USDC, it's part of this group summary, but I don't really understand which one this is. So I'm sure somebody else knows, but anyway, if you click on the actual transaction that's listed in the receipt email, it gives you this one, and it shows $340 and for those 10 tokens, right? And so this is, I think, closer to accurate, but I still paid $7 more than that, and I think the difference is my credit card processing fee. But it is just, but the number that's being used in our, to calculate the taxes again is this 315 number. So it's ignoring these other two smaller um, numbers, which just these I believe are just the fees, right? I think that when I look at it, that's what the difference is, right? This is the per token price, and everything else that ends up being, it's either the fee or the operating reserve. But regardless, it's money that's coming out, and so if I'm looking at my actual profit, I need to look at the money that went out and the money that came in and see what the difference is. And uh, that's what I'm doing here with my actual, um, with my actuals. And like I said, this could be $1 off because it looks like, well, I'll show you, right? They sent me 340,055, but if you subtract all the ones that are part of the transaction, 43 9765 minus 7.885994 minus 15,771,988. It leaves me like 95 cents left over if you subtract those out. And I think this is, there's been a lot of times that they discuss that when you do these market orders, they just throw an extra dollar in there, just in case, there's some slippage in the transaction. And so I've noticed sometimes when I do these transactions that I end up with an extra dollar of USDC or somewhere around that in my Lofty wallet after the transaction. So I think maybe I received this money in the wallet that didn't, it looks like that came in and didn't go back out. And so it's possible that I actually did about a dollar better than what I thought. So wait, maybe I doubled my profit on that one, right? But I'm still $30 off of what they're crediting me as a profit on here. And you can imagine if you have a large number of transactions that this is happening with, that it's going to become a real problem. And so, um, that's my real worry. That's why this needs to be fixed. And so when I talked to Jerry about this, he did say he's going to check with the accountant about it and see if what I'm what I'm mentioning is accurate as far as like what should go into our basis. But in no world should I pay tax on $32 when I made 95 cents, right? I mean, there's just no. Uh, of course, this is the actual number, or maybe this number minus whatever change was returned to me. Um, but in addition to that, uh, he did what he said was, well, we'll fix it going forward because our system's not even picking up those fees right now. And I think it's partial. Like I think this could be rebuilt from looking at this data on the chain. Like this one is, um, this is a credit card transaction, and so you don't get the whole thing because this amount that gets deposited. I mean, maybe you could go back and see somewhere else, but I think this actually just is what I got after the credit card fee was charged. But it is, I don't know. So I guess that's an outstanding question that I have. That's what I'm thinking. But regardless of what it actually is, it's very clear to me that that the form that I received for this particular property shows that I made way more money than I actually made. And I've checked some others, and it appears to be systematic. I don't think that this is a one-off deal. I'm just using this deal as an illustration because it is, like I said, it's the cleanest deal that I have, right? I bought these tokens, the property was sold in real life. There was no payments to me in between, no rent or anything. I got paid out at the end of the transaction, so it was really easy to reconstruct this, and to be sure that that this profit doesn't look anything like what I actually made. But this comes from the problem is based in basis, the original transaction only showing what was spent per token, not what was spent in total. Um, and as far as I can tell, when I'm looking back in my transaction histories, they all seem to do that, right? Well, I say that, but every once in a while I'll see one that I think is that's not the case. That I think that it's picking up the fees, and I'm not sure why. Uh, but I don't know. I haven't gone through every single transaction. Obviously, I have 275 results. Um, you know, that's what makes this really frustrating, right? Like for me to have to check every single one of these against my records and see, I have 30 properties, 29 properties at the moment. Um, here, obviously this is not the biggest deal, right? If I end up paying $10 extra on this one, that's not a big deal. But what happens when, I've got, let's see, where to go. Odom is in the same boat, right? I've been buying these tokens, haven't been receiving anything in return. We're working on a real world sale. Um, I think that I'll make a profit on it. It's not going to be a huge profit, but I have a much bigger chunk of money in this one, right? Like this says farm value 20,000. It's nowhere near that. But it will, I think that I've put more than 10 into this, and I think when I do my math, I'm going to end up with, maybe a $2,000 profit on this transaction. Once it's all said and done, I mean, we'll see what we actually get paid out. But it's going to, if I use the basis, because right now this is the recorded basis that Lofty's using, and it doesn't include my fees. And so, like, if next year's tax forms, if they only update it going forward and they don't address the basis that I already have, well, then that's gonna be really problematic because it's gonna be, you know, I mean, it could be $1,000 off, right? It could end up being a significant difference, to where it's uh, creating a much larger tax liability. And so, in my mind, this is one of the biggest uh, issues I've come across on the platform. It makes me very nervous that we're this late into tax season and we're getting forms that are, I expect, I understand there's going to be some issues, but when the fundamental um, calculation is off, right? Like what we're actually tracking is not there. It's a little scary to me, and so this is certainly going to slow down my investing on this platform until it's worked out. There's been a lot of other issues that I think were scary or problematic or included some risk, but that I think more due diligence on my part and more understanding about the platform I could get past. But if this is something that I think until it's fixed, it's really scary to be doing deals on here where, I could end up looking like I have a tax liability that's more than the money I made. And either I have to just, do my taxes based on my own records, which is what I think I'm going to have to do this year, uh, or just grossly overpay on my taxes. And so neither of those is an ideal situation, because I think if I use my own records, I'm fairly certain that's increasing my audit risk. I've been audited before; it's not fun. Even though I think there's a lot of opportunity to make money on this platform, it's certainly not worth it for me if it's going to mess up my returns to that extent. And if I have to track every single transaction, um, I don't know. I think it's problematic. So one is, I guess, now that I've talked about that a whole bunch, and I think the issue is clear. I'm curious if anybody else has run into this. Um, if you've just been, I think that it's good. Obviously the biggest impact is when you have a sale, right? Like if I haven't ever sold the property, um, then your basis isn't really a big deal. It obviously comes into play with your depreciation, but you won't even notice it you probably won't notice it on your returns if you haven't had sales. But as soon as you have sales, uh, and not just real world sales, like if you have a token sale, it's going to screw it up, right? Because when it's going to show that you bought your token for a certain amount and then sold it for significantly more, because it's just ignored, because the fees are ignored. Um, I don't think this isn't one of those things that I think, oh, let me just get better deals and just pay a higher tax rate. Like I think that it is as it currently stands, an issue that I'm not willing to work around trying to trade around. Um, I don't know. I think that's it. There is a link in the description to this video to our Discord, the Fractional Real Estate Investors generic, Discord, not the lofty one. Feel free to jump in there and talk about this if you want to. If you've dug into any of your transactions and you have other examples that are similar, I'd love to hear that. If you have ones that you think they actually got it right, I'd love to see those. Um, I don't think I have one of those yet. I think that I was confused when I think I told a few people that, oh no, they're getting the credit card ones right. Um, and it turns out that's not the case. They're just getting it right in the email that they send to us. They're not actually getting it right in the order history. And so So it's worse than I thought initially. Anyway, that's all I've got to say about this. Uh, I've got links to all the other places I'm currently investing in fractional real estate. This is the only one that I'm having this tax issue, although maybe we'll have others on other platforms that'll be fun and we can talk about. I think this is probably as nerdy and boring as a topic as I'll ever cover on this channel. Please remember, I'm not giving you tax advice, right? I'm just telling you what my form looks like, what my actual numbers look like, and how that's going to affect me. Whatever you decide to do, you want to talk to your tax preparer. You want to make sure that, you want to just make sure that the numbers that they're saying that, if they say you made $30 on a deal, but you made $1 on that deal, um, you need to talk to your accountant and make sure that they have a way for you to figure that out. And so I just extended my return. Um, I'm hoping that I can, basically it's going to take me a while to go through every single transaction, figure out what my actuals are, and then talk to my accountant and figure out like how are we actually going to reconcile that, right? Can I just say, okay, here's the forms they gave me, and then, oh, also I paid all these fees. Um, I'm just not sure. I'm not sure what the answer is, but it's certainly a problem. So I wanted to make sure it was clear to everybody. If you're investing on Lofty, uh, one of the things what I never even question the tax forms that I get from most of the places that I invest. I have actually, I do keep my own records and have checked them in the past, but I've literally never run into a situation where um, I've received something and it was just so far off from what my actual, what the actual dollars that I've made has been. So, you can tell I'm kind of floored by what's going on here. Um, and I'm just not really sure what to do about it, right? And so hopefully, Lofty gets back to us and says, "Hey, we did screw this up, and we're going to fix them all, and we'll issue new tax forms." Um, I don't believe that's actually what's going to happen, though. I mean, just based on my interaction so far, it will be a very pleasant surprise if that's what does happen. But we'll see. In any case, that's all I've got for today. Until next time, I will keep making mistakes and trying to catch other people's so that you don't have to. But you should have to. You should try to catch the other ones, right? Because it's going to really affect how much money you make. All right, that's it. That's all I got.